30 people gathered in an office room, not daring to presume to know everything about what they were being called to do, but filled with faith for what God would do. They knew he could do more than all they could imagine or ask for. And that's how Grace City was born, standing on the promise of Jesus, that he would build his church and his kingdom would come. In the last 10 years, we've seen countless battles won, but the work is not yet done. So join the team. There are more lives to be redeemed, and as we bring our lives to invest in eternal things, we're building a cathedral of faith. And by God's grace, we've got a place to call our own, a place for us to build home.
What you're about to see is the result of hundreds and thousands of hours of praying and planning and dreaming. What you're about to see defies conventional wisdom in that we were told, don't show them the whole plan because they'll be disappointed if they only get to build a part of it. To which I responded, baloney. And so what you're going to see in the next few moments is our master plan. And we're not going to get to build the whole thing right out of the gate. But we wanted you to have an idea of where we're going so you could understand the context of the importance of the next step we're taking together. And so for the first time publicly viewed in the history of the world, I give you the master plan of our future home. Sit down. Oh my gosh. We should just pray and go home. Was that word coming out tonight? Oh man. Well, so I take it you liked it? Will it work? So that's what's been on our hearts for the last 12 months. And what we want to do tonight is to just kind of take you on a bit of a journey of what this place and this space is going to look like and how we envision using it for the purposes of God that he's put in our heart as a church. And so we're just going to walk you through a bit of a storyboard of the story of Grace City Church in relationship to this property. And so for some of you who are new to the storyboard is going to start with the story of Grace City to give you context for the vision and values and missions God's given us that are then we're hoping to be embodied in this facility. Because facilities exist for one purpose in our world, and that's to facilitate mission, whether it be experiencing the beauty of God, encountering the beauty of God, meeting the beauty of God, not only in space, but in the people who inhabit that space. Amen? So we're just going to go on a bit of a journey and going to invite you to go with us there. And this is not scripted, and we have not planned this conversation. We're just going to talk. If you know Mel by now and myself, we don't do well with scripts. We're just going to share our heart. And so we're going to take the next few moments to walk through the storyboard, and then we're going to pause, and we're going to have a bit of intermission. You can stretch your legs because it's just going to be more than you can handle. And then you come back, and we're going to talk about what we are going to do specifically this year. And we're going to talk about how we're going to do that. And I'm going to give you something to take when you leave here tonight. And then we're going to show a documentary that I haven't even seen yet that's going to hopefully set this entire moment in the context of the destiny of God that he is writing for us as a family. So that's where we're going tonight. Does that sound good? Can you dig that? Are you glad you came yet? Mel said, he's like, I have never seen such an energetic bunch. Are they always like this? I'm like, yeah, it's every Sunday, man. They're just like this. It's like a big youth group every week. So, yeah.
So if anybody was alive in the 80s, we're going to strap ourselves in the DeLorean, do a little time travel.
That's right.
The past and the future.
That's right. I like it. So, Building Home Project, where people and ideas converge to build the future. Our hope and dream for this property is that people are going to come here, ideas are going to come here, and those people and ideas are going to converge, and they're going to enjoy the present and enjoy each other even as they dream about building the future. And so as we move through the night, tonight is really about dreaming globally and acting locally. And this is a phrase you're going to hear me use more and more as we move into this project. I want to change the world. But I live here. And so I'm going to start here. When Jesus called his people to go to the ends of the earth, I think he was thinking about Wenatchee. Wenatchee is the ends of the earth. Right? And so God's put it in my heart, and I think God's put it in the heart of every person made in the image of God to be a part of something that changes the world. And yet it can be overwhelming. Where do we start? Where do we go? And I think God's answer is simply start where I put you. Start where you're at. And so we want to dream globally. If we weren't doing something that we didn't think in the end would change the world, then I don't want to get out of bed tomorrow. And I don't want to put another ounce of energy into this project. But if leaning my life into this could bring about change that would ripple globally, then I'm in. And so we want to dream globally, and then we want to act locally where God has put us. Amen? Oh, come on. It's Premier Event Sunday. Amen? There we go. Okay, here we go. In case you hadn't heard, God gave the church a job, and in Jeremiah 29, he kind of spells that out. You know the story well. If you don't, just the quick oversight. Israel's in captivity. They're in this pagan land. They've been taken captive by the Babylonian Empire, and they're there, and they're wondering, what do we do while we're languishing in this land apart from God's presence, apart from the land he promised us? And God gives them this prophetic word through his servant Jeremiah, and he says, seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. And therein he lies the tracks down for the church to run on. He calls us to seek the welfare of the city that we've been set. So that our job is to work to bring about the flourishing of the community that we live in. And so we have a passion, we often say here at Grace City, to see people flourish. We want to see people become better humans, mind, body, soul, spirit. which means we don't want everybody to become a pastor. We want people to become spirit-filled architects and spirit-filled law enforcement officers and spirit-filled dentists and spirit-filled teachers and spirit-filled ditch diggers and spirit-filled city planners and spirit-filled businessmen and spirit-filled entrepreneurs to press in to the Imago Dei, to the beauty of humanity that God's created them and given them the gift of, to say, okay, what does it look like for me to flourish in the gifts God's given me? We want to see people flourish at every level of life for the benefit of our city, which means what we're doing and what we're building isn't for us. And so I just want to put that on the table tonight. Nothing that we're talking about here tonight is for you necessarily. You're going to get to use it. You're going to get to enjoy it, but it's not in the end about you. We're building this as a gift to our city. So a bit of history for those of you who don't know. This is our church plant team. So it'll be 10 years ago, May 18th, this is the merry band of folks that sat down and said, okay, I think we should do this. They put all our finances in. I think we had, where's Uncle Ray? We had like $13 in the bank or something like that. It was awesome. And we said, well, we're going to do this. And so this picture was taken May 18th, the day we planted Grace City Church. And almost every person in that picture is here this morning, or this evening. Would you guys stand up right here? Would you guys stand up? If you're in the church planting team, just stand up right here. You want to thank them for what they did? Here they are right here. Yeah. Woo. So whatever you guys did, it worked. Good job. This is the first Sunday, May 18, 2008. I was 13. Never too young to live a life that matters. And if you'll see in the picture there, it's Julie Ballard's short hair. Wave your hand, Julie Ballard. Where are you at? There you go. Yeah, put her head down. And that's Michael Ballard. He just got hired on by Wenatchee PD, so he's grown up a little bit. Here's the second place we went to, Kashmir Community Center. Who remembers meeting there? Raise your hand if you were there. Yeah, remember that place? Yeah, me too. Yeah. Next place we went, Wenatchee SDA. Who remembers meeting there? Yeah. Remember the Sunday I was preaching and the Mariners game came on over the sound system? That was awesome. Love that place. Then we moved to the American Performing Arts Center in 2013. Here's the cool thing about that. Chris told me today, he's almost 5 years to the day of tonight, Chris inked a deal with the PAC for us to move. And now almost 5 years later, we're talking about inking a bigger deal on our own piece of property. Easter 2014, you know what room that is? This room right here. It was this Sunday where we realized we had a problem. There was more of you than we had space. And we thought, well, let's go to the high school, give us some space, whatever. And 1,100 of you showed up, and which was twice as many folks as we had attending at church at the time. And you packed the house out, and we were like, okay, we got to find a solution here because we're growing up. And so that fall, the ESAT team, myself, began looking for property, and we turned over every rock we could find, old building to remodel, property to purchase, a large facility to take over, and the combination of parking spaces needed for a gathering space. It's just no place in town. And so we found this property in the north end of town, and most of you have heard the story of how God brought that about, but we made an offer, and here is those of our members who were there at the PAC. Who remembers that night? Who cast a vote that night? Yeah, look at your hands. There they are right there. Thank you for voting yes, by the way. That was I noticed Kent's hand isn't raised. You notice that? I'm not quite sure what that means, but he's always dragging his feet a little bit. Spring 2015, we got assigned papers on the property, and just a few months later, you, because of your generous giving and hearts of faith, paid off that property, and so a bunch of us went out there on the property, and we got to what? Burn it! We got to burn the mortgage. And you remember what we did that day? Anybody remember? What did we do? We wrote names of people we want to see meet Jesus on stakes. We wrote our name, verses, names of people we want to see meet Jesus, and we drove them into the ground around the property, and we have been baptizing names on those stakes ever since. I've lost track of you. That's right. Oh. You guys are so funny. You're such a covert bunch. I'll be walking through the lobby and you'll come up and you'll be like, "Hey, Pastor Josh, I'd like you to meet, Billy Bob." No, That's a local Wenatchee name, very common. You know, more common than Antioch, but oh, we love Antioch. Come on, go Tigers. So I was like, there's Billy Bob. Okay, great, nice to meet you, Billy Bob. And then Billy Bob walks off, and they're like, he's on my steak. You tell me that all the time. She's on my steak. That's a steak person. And so I love when you guys bring steak folks to church. And it's good stuff. So that was Easter 2017. Anybody remember that day? Yeah. You know what's missing in that picture? A building. That's right. So that's why we're here. So this became the problem, is that we refused to build inside the old paradigm, namely a member-only club open one day a week. And so I got on a plane over the course of 3 or 4 years, as I've shared, visited over 40 large church campuses, and from Pennsylvania to Florida, Dallas, Austin, Chicago, Indianapolis, Colorado, Phoenix, San Diego, Los Angeles, OC, Portland, Las Vegas, Reno, Seattle, and everywhere. And we would walk in, and every one of them had one thing in common on a Wednesday morning or a Thursday afternoon. You know what it is? Ghost town. Nobody there. 400,000 square feet, 500,000 square feet, empty. And I would just leave, and Chris can attest, we would leave just with a pit in our stomach. We're like, I don't want to build that. To spend all that money and time and energy building something that we use for like 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday morning, and then it sits empty. Like, I just could not, my heart couldn't get there. And so we began dreaming of trying to build something that would maybe be outside of the large church, mega church paradigm. And we dreamed of building a gift to our community open 7 days a week. We think we got the best news in town, which means I think we should be open 7 days a week. And so how could we build something that would meet the needs of our growing church family, meet the needs of the mission that God called us to, and yet simultaneously repurpose it then all week long to serve the community God's called us to love? But what kind of a message would it send if we spend millions of dollars on a facility that nobody else gets to use unless you're a card-carrying member of that club? Like, there's enough of those around town. What if we came together and leveraged our resources and combined our generosity to build something that could be received by our community as a gift? We thought, we're in. And so that led us on a bit of a journey. And we said, what if we build a space around our values? Not just building a space where there would be walls on which we would hang our values, but a space in which the walls would actually embody our values and carry our values and facilitate our values. And so that's the journey we began. And as I shared this morning, that journey had several dead ends. And we met with multiple architects and firms, and they just couldn't get there. And so when God connected our heart with Mel and he began talking, I don't know, where's Chris? Raise your hand. Chris Speeden. Chris, how many minutes was it in our meeting before you knew Mel's the guy? 4. Okay. I was going to say 3. He's a bit of a thinker, so it took him some time to get there. He's the more cautious one. But just instantaneously, we knew that he shared our heart for the kingdom of God, for the mission of the church, and for the vision of seeking the welfare of the city with everything that we do. And so we began talking about the fact that this building home project is really the spatial storytelling of our values. We're demonstrating what we value, what we care about through the very design, flow, structure, materials used of this facility we're building. So we're just going to now walk through this space. And again, this is the master plan vision. We're not going to get to build all of this right out of the gate, but we wanted you to have this in your heart as a placeholder, as something to look to put on the horizon, so that you have it as the context for the next step we're going to take to get there, okay? So we went through and okay, what do we value, and then how can we represent that spatially and tell that story and then repurpose that as a blessing to the city all week long. And we came up with our first set of values. We value music, we value art, and we value gathering together. Now, when I say that these values, you might be tempted to think, well, those aren't Christian values. And I would push right back. My gosh, we live in the world God made. Everything good in this world is His. Music is His. Art is His. Community is his. And whenever those get expressed, however broken they may be, those are an expression of the Creator that made man to love the things he loves. He didn't make the garden in black and white. He made it in full color, texture, 3D experience. God, when he designed people, he put them in a place of beauty. And a result of the curse and a result of the fall, and one of the primary impacts of the fall, second only to the loss of relationship, was the loss of place. God's people were removed from his presence because they were removed from his place. So we value music, we value art, we value gathering together. And so we wanted to build the Grace City Event Center. This is a 1,000-seat event center. It's designed to function in a multiplicity of ways. It's multi-purpose in function, but not multi-useless in function. I'll let Mel explain that in a moment. But the design you'll see in a moment is a flat floor with stadium seats in the back. It can seat 1,000 in its master plan. The first iteration will fit 750 people. But with a few drops of some scrims and some lighting and some seating changes, you can shrink the room to about 200 and it function in an intimate setting. So we're not building this massive room that can only be used and work well if there's 1,000 people in it. It's going to be a multi-use venue that can function to launch other churches. If the other churches that are small, 50, 100 people don't have a place yet, heck, can use our place. Sunday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and we can make it function so it can work at multiple levels of use. So you've been in, like for instance, this room right here, to be honest. If there was 100 people in here, what would it feel like? Totally awkward. So there's really only one way this room works, the person on the stage and 1,000 people out there. But if we could build a facility that would work for 1,000 people out there or 500 people out there or 100 people out there, we thought that was a good idea.
You know, one of the missing Beatitudes is blessed are the flexible, for they will not break. And again, I've seen plenty of multi-useless gymatoriums in my day that are called sacred space in church buildings. And rather than, swing into the end of opulence and extreme, it's actually a very careful structure that's designed with a balance of stewardship and intentionality and excellence. It actually is a pre-engineered steel structure that has clear span steel, column-free space, that's all about, again, flexibility. And through the use of God's gift of technology, audio, video, lighting, scrim, we can kind of reinvent the room based on the sermon series, based on the event, based on the experience. It's really about the magic of the soundstage. A lot of people don't realize that, for example, some of the top human magnets on the planet, like Disney theme parks, these are not cathedral-type spaces. If you look at a Google aerial shot or a Google Earth view, the vast majority of the e-ticket anchor experiences are in old-fashioned Hollywood sound stages. They're in metal sheds and boxes. And so the trick is what you do. The magic, the excellence, the beauty, the intentionality is not only what you do on stage, but it's also not only about what you do within the walls. It's about what you do in the spaces between the buildings, in the facades, in the corners. So you're going to see that common theme of very carefully crafting outdoor rooms, spaces between the buildings, interconnecting spaces between the large structures. But one of the ways that we were able to, frankly, be creative, meet the budget, do the heavy lifting from a creative perspective was actually the vast majority of the square footage in this facility is some of the least expensive cost per square foot type of construction that I'm aware of, short of tents. So, which, hey, nothing against tents.
We said
Tabernacle
no.
was awesome, but,
So that is the Grace City Event Center, and it's going to be designed so that it doesn't look like a cathedral or church. It looks like a really kind of cool fruit warehouse. It's kind of going to be the feel of it, because as you'll see, the whole theme throughout the whole property is telling the story of kind of the agrarian agriculture story that is the story of our valley. So that is what we're going to build. The master plan's 1,000 seats. The phase one will seat 750 in the the Grace City Event Center. You like it? There it is. Then we began talking more about values, and we said, we value children education and lifelong learning. And so we decided to build what we're calling Gracetown. You like that? Gracetown?
this is going to be fun.
So, for those of you that are a little slow in the room, Grace City, big folks. Gracetown. Tracking Kyle? Kyle got it. Okay, good. So the idea here is to have a place. In fact, it's crazy. I talked with somebody this week who's coming to Grace City Church now. They came 7 years ago when we were in a space that had no place for their kids, and they were searching for Jesus, and they had little kids there, and it was awkward, and they couldn't hear the sermon, and so guess what? They left. They're back now because their kids are older and behave better, I guess. But we want to have a space that we can allow our kids to grow up, explore, learn, but not just one day a week. And so our dream for this is to make it build it so that it works for Grace Kids, but then repurpose it all week long as a academic-based preschool and a daycare. And just hear the vision of this, and this is new for me because I'm slow on the uptake, but as I began meeting with guys like Steve King and Frank Kuntz and different principals across the valley of elementary schools and leaders in academia, and just like, what's the challenge, what's going on? And one of the challenges they continually mentioned was graduation rates of this building we're in right now are plummeting. Studies I got to read by this is Dr. Gene Sherritt, just brilliant in his research and work here in education in the valley. And they began tying low graduation rates to lack of access to preschools in the valley. Now, I wouldn't have connected that dots. I don't know what that means. So I was like, well, do tell. And they said, well, here's how it works. They don't have access to preschool, which means they don't have access to just some basic learning, reading, being read to, numbers, letters, things like this. And they're not being read to at home by parents who are busy and working and so on and so forth and stick them in front of a TV or electronic device. And so they hit first, second, third grade, and they're already so behind that the teacher's overwhelmed, full classrooms. They're trying to get clothes in their bag, make sure they got a coat for the winter. And in some schools in our city, just making sure that they're fed 3 square meals a day. And so the priority of teaching them letters and numbers and basic grammar and arithmetic, those things doesn't happen. But they fake it through 4th, 5th, 6th grade. 7th grade, they start to struggle. 8th grade, they can't make the cut. By 9th or 10th grade, they drop out, don't graduate. And they're tying it directly to the fact that they had no access to early education and academic-based preschool. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. Well, we're going to have a big space that's just built for kids. Like, can we do that there? And the city was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And so the dream is to have this space that could be used all week long. And it might fill up quick, I don't know, but I got to talk with some businessmen on the north end of town, ask them some of the challenges with their business, and they said, you know what, the best gift you could give us is a place for our workers to take their kids, because they got no place to take their kids. And so they show up to work late, they leave early. If there was a daycare, a preschool, a place that they could trust to drop their kids off, that would increase their efficiency at my business, and I'd be grateful for it. And so we see this gift to the community of being a preschool daycare on the north end of town. We're hoping for a capacity of up to 100 kids and beyond in the master plan. The master plan capacity is about 250 kids. Phase 1 capacity will be about 100 in the preschool, and 40 to 50 in the daycare. But the idea is to build something that we're going to need to use as a church, and then repurpose it as a gift to the community all week long. You like it? Yeah, there it is.
One of the things that our former Disney Imagineers and spatial storytellers really love to do is, again, celebrate the story of people in place and really dig into kind of the way that God's used creation to sustain us. And that's so true of the agricultural heritage of the valley here. And we thought, Jesus thought that some of that agriculture stuff was a pretty helpful metaphor for understanding what it means to plant a seed, to flourish, to grow the kingdom of heaven from a seed all the way to fruit that produces eternal ripples. And we thought, what a powerful metaphor. Another thing that we've learned in terms of working with families and ministries is that one of the biggest friction points, pinch points, is children's ministry: security, crowd flow, throughput, congestion points, and not the least of these, though, is just the anxiety of moms and their newborn babies, the anxiety of kids being separated from their parents, and so often that actually does impact the mom ever getting or being allowed to sit in a place where she's able to just soak in some words of eternal life. And what we've learned is it's worth, even though some would say, hey, why are we spending any money on on storytelling, on theming, on graphics or whatever, the ability to minimize that apprehension and turn that actually into excitement, and having kids drag their mom or their dad into the building and wanting to say, see you later, I'm out, and to be, climbing up the packing crates and the, down the slides. And then what that then allows us to do is, once you're inside of the ministry environments, which again are very designed to be very flexible spaces that can be used for all kinds of things, then you have the flexibility, and they may not be as themed out, if you will, but you have the flexibility. But really, that first impression is so key in terms of getting the kids
totally
jazzed.
And that was so helpful. And Mel took us through several places he'd done, and they took over an old Boeing complex, aerospace complex he redesigned in SoCal. We walked through, and what was really cool is you walk in and you're just immediately impacted by the theming, the storytelling, the branding of the center room. But then as you move into the spaces, very bland's the wrong word, but very simple, very flexible. Meaning, you've been in some churches where you walk in every room and the kids is like Noah and the Ark, and Daniel the Lion's Den. Like, you'd never have a board meeting in a room with Noah and on the wall. Is kind of weird. But how this is designed, there's a strong theming on the front end, but then as you push past it, the rooms are very simple. They can modulate, they can change very easy. You could host a marriage class in there or an FPU class in there, because when you get through the initial part, then it's more generic, and the part we're doing is still really cool. Like, you go to Disneyland, even the part your kid plays and you're like, that's really cool. That's the level of excellence we want to bring to this. And one of the pieces of the story of our valley that they began telling in this Blue Sky was each, seedlings, 0 to 2. The orchard, 3 to 4. The bloom section, 5 to 7. And then the warehouse, 8 to 9. It's kind of like you put a seed in the ground, it grows an orchard. The orchard goes to bloom. The blooms turn to fruit. It gets picked and it gets sent to the warehouse as the last place it stops before it's sent out into the world to be enjoyed. So the whole flow of Gracetown is kind of built on the concept of agriculture and raising kids up to eventually send them out to make an impact on the world. And so, I was talking with the family in our church, and they didn't know what we were doing, and I was getting ready to go talk to our legacy team to kind of unpack this vision for them, and they grabbed me and they said, hey, guess what? I said, what? I said, our son's going back to church. And I knew their son. I played baseball with him as a kid. I said, you're kidding me. What happened? Well, he's living in Seattle, and he and his wife are working. They don't really care about church, whatever. We've been talking to them, whatever. They've been busy, and they took their child to a preschool that a church was hosting in their neighborhood. And the child would bring home scripture, and the child would bring home projects they were working on. And the child was like, Mom, Dad, I want to go to church there. I want to go to church there on Sunday. And they're like, no. And they finally decided to go to the church where their kid was attending preschool, because their kid dragged them there where they met Jesus and gave their life back to Jesus. Do you love that? So one of the things we get excited about is just building a facility that we're praying that just hundreds, if not thousands, of people in our community would move through every week, so that all the thoughts of what's a church like, it just goes away, because they've been there a lot. They've been served there, they've been blessed there, they've enjoyed time there. So they're just removing those walls to have them come experience the good news of the gospel. Gracetown, can you dig it? That's Gracetown. We value heritage, history, and celebration. And, for me, I just love thinking about where we've come from, because for me, it gives me perspective of where we're going. And so, heritage is what you're given. History is decisions that you make. So when I'm counseling couples, like, look, the two most challenging or the most shaping influences in your story will be your heritage or your family of origin and your personal history of choices you've made. And you got to deal with those. And if you don't, it's going to come up later, I guarantee it. But those things are precious, and God's given us a heritage to steward and to care for of faith. And then we just value celebration. We love to party. We have a theology of party around here, actually. We talk about it all the time. We think the kingdom of God's going to be a big party. The first miracle Jesus did was cranking up the party. And we're like, you know what? Part of living on mission is to throw the better party. To be the better humans, to throw the party that doesn't end in destruction, that doesn't end in regret, that doesn't end in broken relationships, but actually ends in the spirit and the heart being lifted. And so we value those things, amen? And so we want to embody those values. And so we're going to build a one-room schoolhouse chapel. You like that? And part of our history and heritage, not only locally in Eastern Washington, but really the American story is the first place in a town that was incorporated to get built would be this kind of one-room schoolhouse. And it served as both the place to educate the children and the place to gather and worship on Sundays. And so the center of the community became a place of education and worship. And so we wanted to kind of capture that in this facility as kind of a smaller 150-seat venue that just kind of harkens back to the one-room classic schoolhouse. I told the mood board guys, I was like, have you ever seen Little House on the Prairie? And they're like, 28, and they're like, I'm like, well, go watch it, and then that's what I want to do, And so our dream here is this place for weddings that we make available to the community, weddings, anniversaries, celebrations, overflow venues for live stream worship, just a place to gather and celebrate.
I got to tell you a funny story. The very first one of these kind of ancient future sacred space chapels that I designed is actually at my home church, Mariners. I call it Lori's Chapel of Love because then we got to get hitched there.
Cool.
People don't often want to get married in a black box soundstage, but when it comes to celebrating life transformations, baby dedications, weddings, funerals, these can be really compelling, powerful places. One of the things that my church learned and that was pleasantly surprised by, we did one of these purely, frankly, as a commercial venue, really funded and planned with the intent of hosting weddings because, we felt that had left the church, but we also felt that there was money to be made in catering revenue, so pretty savvy CFO. But the thing about it that we were shocked by is what an evangelistic outreach tool it was. There were so many people that would never dream of coming to a performing arts center for a church, would never dream of stepping foot into a black box rock and roll church. But, in a time of spiritual crisis, if there was a chapel or a church that just somehow matched that little image they had in their head of here's the chapel, here's the steeple, they're turning over, there's the people, whatever. That's my church architecture training right there. That people would be drawn towards that. And again, the opportunity to pray and then to seek counseling adjacent to that is a really powerful, compelling thing. So we've had all kinds of people darken our doors that we never thought would be interested even remotely. So it really can be a powerful piece of the bait that makes us better fishers of men.
Amen. Amen. We value kids, fun, and being outside. Right? That's why you live in Wenatchee. That's why you moved here. Because you're tough. You're North Face. You're Yeti. You can handle the elements. That's how you got to the West Coast. That's how you're here. You had to go to the Oregon Trail. We love being outside. So we love kids, fun, and being outside. And so we've imagined this courtyard space, and it's gotten even cooler since this picture. It's so tempting to unpack that there. But as you can see, as you come into the courtyard from loading out of either parking lot, there's outdoor kids space right there. There's going to be a fountain. And then over that fountain, there's going to be a stage. So at any given time, there could be a live concert going on there. We're establishing it so that, there's steel grates in the water so a kid can't fall in midweek, but we can pull those out. And you might be showing up early for third service, and we're baptizing somebody who got saved in second. Somebody come on. Somebody say amen. Like, no, you're going to wait till next week. Let's do it right now. And then around that fountain, there may or may not end up being a splash pad for kids to play in, right? Because that's cool. And so if you notice how it's set up, that stage was set up, you could take in a 180-degree concert venue seating. You could have people up on the landing looking down. It's just a place to kind of gather people, to connect, to enjoy the outdoors. It's set so it's protected from some of the elements, and it's kind of the outdoor expression of what will be happening in Gracetown. And I think a lot of fun's going to be had here. I'll throw this out here. I shouldn't, but we're also designing it so that there will be parking stalls for food trucks. So, you like that? Yeah, so, I'm thinking like Food Truck Friday, baby. It's good to be Grace City. And so it provide a place for those incredible local business to come out and he was like, hey, if you could be out here, we're going to have a couple thousand people here every Sunday. We'd love for you to set up shop. We'd love to bless you. So there's lots of cool things can happen out there in the courtyard. You dig it? That's the courtyard. Yep.
Some of you heard me share this morning about the idea of the Samaritan woman at Jacob's well, and what a powerful thing that would be to create a postmodern version of Jacob's well. And oftentimes that would be at a town square or a town green, a village green. And we're blessed to be staying in Leavenworth, overlooking dead central, the gazebo, at probably the most Thomas Kincaid village green on the planet that I've ever seen. And, fell asleep to the sound of kids sliding down that little puny little snow hill. But I've never seen so much density per square foot of snow. And again, the idea that you could create this town green, this gathering place that is just not available. It's just not around. And that this could be activated. And again, the metaphor of the well through a baptismal, through a splash pad, through at the perimeter having access to coffee and circulation. And by the way, the buildings are all connected. They're all heated. They're all air conditioned. But what they do is they surround the outside of this to create just a wonderful active edge, so that even in the dead of winter, when you're just looking out at a snow blanketed town green, just with some magical lighting, it could really be kind of a neat visual to kind of orient the campus, so that you don't ever get that feel that you're lost in the hallway of a hospital, kind of lost down some dead-end corner and double loaded corridor. To have single loaded corridors and glass that are always looking. From the kids' building, you're looking towards the auditorium. From the auditorium, looking towards the kids' building. Just you get this sense of orientation that's really helpful, but more importantly, you get this sense of connection with creation by seeing God's reflected ceiling plan, the sun, by seeing His creation through natural elements, rock, stone, water, grass, and staying connected again to the garden is really powerful.
One of the things that got value engineered out, and so I shouldn't even tell you, but I will, because I typically tell you more than I should. But we had in here at one point a place to flood in the winter for an ice rink. Oh, man! So if you give lots, maybe we'll build it. Who knows? But just we want to have fun, right? And as Mel mentioned, one of the things we noticed as we would walk through these facilities is where you place destinations in your facility determines circulation. And that's very important. And so some facilities, you walk in the main door, bathroom, auditorium, kids space, just all within 20 feet of the front door. And then these beautiful places to hang out. And we would watch over and over again, Chris, 5,000 people pour out of the auditorium, hang a right, head to the parking lot, and never go into this 13,000 square foot atrium that they made to hang out. But it wasn't in the normal path of circulation. So the whole design of the building, even where things are located, is designed to kind of pull you through the experience and hopefully kind of cross-pollinate you with more people, so that even how the building's laid out and where you're going to naturally go, it's going to facilitate you running into, seeing, meeting, hanging out with more people. And so even how the building is laid out, I think is going to facilitate more folks meeting more folks, which is kind of cool. We value good views and good storytelling. And so we're going to build something we're calling the landing and the story tower. Now this landing is up over the junction and can get access from several points from the event center. There's also a really, really cool silo. And I actually met a guy 2 weeks ago that has this gigantic silo. And I was like, put my name on it. So we already got the silo nailed down. Yeah! So you'll come in. Go to that. You come in, you can cycle up through the silo, and you come out on the landing, two-story double-sided fireplace there. One side looks down into the courtyard. One side takes in the breathtaking south-facing views of the Columbia River, the Annam Ridge, Mission Ridge, of course, the enchantments. And you're just there, and you can have meetings there. I've already talked to some realtors. They're like, I'm signing deals there. And this is just a place to come out and hang out. And, of course, there's going to be access to some eateries there we'll talk about in a moment. But then what was in my heart was a place to go to get a view. How many of you like to be up and just get a view? I mean, you just love that, right? And so I said, no, like, what if we built like a story tower? And he's like, well, talk me through it. So we've been talking through it, and then, of course, he took it and ran with it. But the idea was a story tower you could access for 360 view of the valley, and standing in that tower, you can experience the story of Wenatchee. And so whether we brand it, theme it with digitally or with storyboards, tell the story of the Columbia River, tell the story of Stamilt, Tell the story of Confluence. Tell the story of the first folks who pioneered this place and planted the first apple trees. Tell the story of Mission Ridge. And just so you could go up there and you could just experience, because as a realtor, in my former life, I was always looking for one spot to take folks where they could take in the whole valley at once. I thought, gosh, we got a great spot there. What if we built a spot where realtors would love to bring their clients to experience the story of Wenatchee in one spot? So we're really wanting to build something that if you came to Wenatchee, like you got to go to Pybus and you got to go to Gray City because it's just a gift to the city, right? You like that? And there's more iterations coming to this, but I told Mel, I said, what I want it to look like is I want it to look like old apple boxes stacked. And so kind of walk us through how what's going to make that, the meshed metal, how that works.
Well, there's a perforated metal, and again, a lot of churches have steeples that nobody gets to get up except for Quasimodo to ring the bell. But, what if there was a place that was actually accessible to you, to the public, that was an inspiration point that, anyone could get up there, get the story of the city, but also be able to reflect and pray for the entire valley here. And also a pretty sweet spot, short of driving up to the mountains, to actually overlook the Columbia River, overlook the Cascades, and just, again, a real point of inspiration. But the specific materials we're proposing here is this. It's a perforated metal that is called cortan that looks like a rusted metal that gives it that kind of aged and grained patina, but again, with that inspiration of the old-fashioned apple storage crates. And again, people just love, when the weather's right, love being out under God's sky, and there's different things you can do. Even on the landing there, the deck, you can mitigate the wind, even the rain. But there's just something compelling about being out there when the weather's right.
I was thinking about this story tower during our season of prayer, 21 days of prayer. It's like we could have prayer snipers in that perch all week long. You know what I'm talking about? Like Taylor up there just praying thunder down from heaven. So, but we love the idea of just theming it with the apple box, just grabbing the ethos of the town we love, and the fact that we've gotten to enjoy. People come here and they look at orchards like, what are those? And I'm like, it's an orchard. That's incredible. Many people in the world haven't seen orchards, and we take it for granted, right? They're beautiful, and so we're going to celebrate that in the Story Tower. Can you dig it? Yeah. We value, and this is probably one of my favorite pieces, and this is where I might lose some of you. So let's just take a minute and get this right. We value business, innovation, entrepreneurs, and collaboration. Those are values. We think those are values that come forth from being born in the image of God. And as we began thinking through this facility, we really began thinking through Francis Schaeffer's kind of 7 pillars of society. So, business, education, government, family, religion, entertainment, media, so forth. And how could we get a finger into every pillar and influence it for the kingdom of God? And so we began thinking about this business pillar. And I mean, a large portion of our church runs their own business. We're a highly entrepreneurial, highly innovative church. And we just have folks that you guys just work hard. You guys just love to work because work is a gift from God. It's not a result of the curse. It was affected by the curse, but it was given to Adam and Eve as a gift, pre-curse in the garden, to enjoy working the garden. So we want to cultivate that valley-wide, and so we want to build something that we're calling the packing shed. And what will happen here is several things. On the main floor, there will be, in the proposed master plan, about 15,000 or 20,000 square feet of co-working space. And if you Google WeWork, which you need to go home and Google WeWork tonight, WeWork.com, it's this kind of real estate phenomena sweeping the country where, entrepreneurs and businessmen who have been at home starting companies on computers are finding that being alone is bad for being creative. It's tough to generate ideas. And so they want to find places where they're just around other humans to mingle. So this co-working space is kind of taken off. It's like a Gold's Gym membership. You can buy a membership. If you're a member of WeWork, you can go around the country, any town you land in. If they have a WeWork space, you can go use a desk for a day, for a week, use a conference room for an hour. And so we wouldn't necessarily structure it like that. But as I've been talking with realtors around the valley, they get asked for a co-working space every week. It's just in massive demand in this mobile culture that is being driven by digital business. And so this would be a co-working space that would function as a small business incubator. And the goal would be to stick Jeff Weber out there and Bart Tilley out there. And then as people come, we partner with some folks in town who are doing something called angel funding. And as I've talked with these guys and said, hey, what if, and I'll just I never heard of angel funding until about a year ago. I've heard of venture capitalism, where you sell your soul, they give you money, and you're off and running. but angel funding is the same idea without selling your soul part. And so there's some really, really competent men of extraordinary leadership and capacity in town that are putting together some angel funding to try to lure and draw businessmen and women to Wenatchee to kind of bolster the our economic culture. And we said, what if we provided a space for those young businesses to incubate around seasoned businessmen and women in our church, where they could have access to them for free, mentoring, business plans, figuring out how to do a spreadsheet. And in this space, there would be multiple experiences spaces. There would be offices you could rent for a day, a week, a month, a year. There'd be conference space. There'd be admin support there. High-end internet, high-speed internet, high-end admin support. And then built into that is just the culture of innovation. And then from there, we start, hosting luncheons once a week or once a month. We bring in really sharp businessmen and women from our church and from our community and from around the region to do, a 1 hour lunch on how to be productive with your time and how to hire staff and how to fire staff and 3 things you should never do running your business from home, and just cultivating a culture that celebrates and supports the starting innovation of new businesses that meet challenges in our community with economic solutions.
Well, the inside of this is the ultimate expression of that flexibility space, because it really is inspired by some of the industrial buildings along Columbia Street. And once you go inside, and I think the next image shows some of the intersection co-working space, it's all about walls that slide open, inspired by your house and your barn doors, and so you can, spaces expand, they contract, they flex, they flow. And by the way, this can be used for ministry space, it can be used for small groups, it can be used for admin, it can be cross-utilized. It's really all about synergizing this site with uses that don't need the parking Sunday morning, but can also use the real estate, use the parking, use the access to the shared amenities throughout the week. And this is also a unique part of the facility in that this doesn't necessarily have to be paid for out of the church offering plate. I mean, this is the kind of thing that has independent sources of revenue, especially when it's kind of a plug-in module to the rest of the critical mass that's on this property and the campus, with the parking already there, the infrastructure, the lobby, the restrooms, everything else. So it's really it's a space that we're creating in our hometown that's actually going to be a lot like this, and we've been blessed by the city. They're excited enough by the vision that we've created. We've got a space called CoLab. We're in a town called Corona, so it's a Corona Learning Arts Business incubator, kind of similar to this, and we think it's a blessing to the city. They want alternatives to agriculture, to industrial. They want to be part of the rise of the creative class of white collar workers, whether it's technology, whether it's information, whether it's art and design. There's something to be said about kind of creating entire new industries for a town.
And one of the things that I talked with successful businessmen and women in our church, and I said, hey, when's the last time someone asked you how to do what you do well and kind of mentor them? And to my astonishment, every person I asked said no one's ever done that. And there's this ethos of mentorship that's kind of been lost in our culture. And so one of the heart behind this is we would, as a church, if you want, you would make yourself available to come down, put your name up. If someone came in from the college or from in town to use this space, they could call. You could take them out for lunch, and we could just start connecting savvy businessmen and women in our church with upstart businesses in our community to love them, to serve them, to just help them thrive and be successful. And in fact, one of Jeff Weber's hearts is like, I've started many successful businesses. Now I want to help others do the same. And the beauty of that is, if you've helped someone at the moment of their need in an area that they needed help with, then when the marriage goes sideways or the kids go sideways or life goes sideways, who are they going to call? Not Ghostbusters. They're going to call people who've invested in them and love them and serve them. And so as we serve our community and love our community and work for the flourishing of our community, we want to be able to meet not just their physical needs, but their spiritual needs when they ask in the timing that God brings about through His Holy Spirit. So if we go back to this picture, on the second floor then will be about a 250-seat convention center. And so the idea is that convention space is a better way to put it. Convention space / conference space. Air walls, you can divide it into smaller spaces, south-facing views on that second floor. So we could host HR conferences, and we could host, Stamilt's executive team that wants to get off-site for an executive meeting. There'll be a catering kitchen up there, access to the landing. Just a space for people in town to lease or rent as they have need for larger gathering venues that are a little more life-giving than the life-sucking rooms at the convention center. Let's just be honest. You didn't hear that here. But so the point is, like, life-giving space they can gather in and hang out. Yes, I just said that. And then in the evening, here's my vision, and it's personal to me, and because it's personal to me. So I don't know how long the Lord is going to give my dad. But as long as the Lord gives my dad breath, I want to build a stage for him to play his song and to beat his drum. And I'm envisioning my dad on the second floor of this packing shed, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, parenting classes, marriage classes, classes on sexuality, classes on how to read the Bible and follow Jesus. And we make those available not just to our church, but to our community all week long, so that we can posture ourselves to serve the people in our town. We value health, activity, and fitness. Amen? Any CrossFit people in here? You're pretty proud of yourself, aren't you? Yeah. And so we want to put a gym here. And the vision is here as it's run by folks in our community. And it's run in such a way that it's not a meat locker. It's a safe place for people to go and work out and stay fit, whether you got a business there and you're going to roll out there for a lunch break, or just a north end place for all the families who are moving out in Sunny Slope to come work out. There's a 1.5 mile trail that wraps around the property that they can run on, walk on, pray walk, exercise walk, fast walk, speed walk, whatever walking you want to do. That's going to be able to happen right there, which is pretty cool. And where's Chris Newberger? You like that, Chris? You're welcome. You're welcome. We value local food and cool spaces. And so you might have caught there the Mela sign. Anybody here Mela fans? Yeah. So we've been talking with Cafe Mela, and it's just conversations, and things could change, and so nothing's in concrete. But we wanted to activate the space with a local business that people love, that kind of get the ethos and culture and environment of what we want to build. And so it would just kind of be nestled right in that co-working space. So you'd come in the junction, fireplace, cool spots to hang out, co-working space, and right there in the middle of it all, Mela. Pretty cool. And then down the road, Lord willing, we'd like to stick an eatery out there, a restaurant of some kind. And there's some zoning challenges, and it might not happen, and I get that. But it's like you could roll out there, work out. I mean, here's the vision, right? You're a single mom or you're a young mom with a kid. You roll out, you drop your kid off with a day drop. And the vision is, when you go to Fred Meyer and you leave your kid with that deer in the headlights 21-year-old. You know that girl who's like, my gosh, why did I take this job? And then you go shop for like 9 hours and then come back and pick up your kid. Or you go to Gold's Gym and drop. The idea is to have a day drop here serviced by the people of Grace City Church. In fact, Lori Steinbeck, where you at, Lori? She's volunteered to hold every baby that comes through. She's like, that's my job. I want to do that. And one of the people of Grace City staff this, and a young mom can come and drop her kid off. Meet at Mela. One of the biggest challenges for our women in DNAs is just having time to get together with other girls with kids. So the thought is you come here, ladies, drop your kid off at the day drop for an hour, roll in, grab Mela, head up to the landing, do your DNA time, roll out, get a workout in, pick your kid up, head home, praise Jesus. You like that? You go home a little more human. And mom's being a little more human is a good thing. And I see Desley over here and Jen nodding her head. So there's just ways to activate that space that would draw people to come out there and enjoy, dream about building the future while they enjoy the present.
A lot of church architects, they have a name for this kind of space. It's, not quite this kind of space, but they would call this square footage a narthex or a church foyer.
It sounds like something you get punched in.
4 to 8 square feet per person that you need for pre-function space. Again, the idea is that space, if done right, can be about relationship, about community, a place to meet a new best friend 7 days a week, and not just kind of this overcrowded situation, for a few hours, 1 day a week.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about that. We value generosity and justice, and I'm going to hand this over to Mel, because maybe as you're seeing here, there was just nothing in our heart that wanted to build an economic black hole we had to continue dumping money into. We wanted to build something that we knew would take capital and knew would take generosity, knew would take work, but that also had the potential to generate some economic revenue for the church itself, to increase our ability to love people, serve people, do mission. And so these pieces, like the chapel, like the preschool, the daycare, like Mela, like the co-working space, the event center, they have the ability to be leveraged to not only bless our city, but to generate some economic revenue. And one of the visions behind that is to be as efficient and effective as possible with dollars people are already going to spend. And so we started toying around with this kind of, this Tom's idea of, you buy a shoe and dig a well in Africa kind of thing. Could we organize this so that there would be this kind of generosity, justice piece of this property? And so as I was explaining this to Mel, he's like, well, funny thing, look around you. We were having this conversation in the very place he's going to tell you about next.
Well, there was a time in our nation's history and really in our world where I call it the era of Walmart. It was just this commodity industrial economy where it was all about getting the bigger stuff for as cheap as possible. Think big box, Costco, think McDonald's, how many billions served, how quickly can they get you in, get you out. Well, economists have said we've transitioned, especially when you look at the values of kind of emerging generations, whether it's millennials, where they found that people will pay a significant premium if you give them an opportunity to change themselves or change the world. And, great example of that, like I said, is Tom's shoes. You buy a pair of Toms, you buy sunglasses from them, and you're giving a kid a pair of shoes, you're giving a kid vision, whether it's glasses or surgery. This is a space that's kind of our extension office space, or at least conference space down the street from our studio. We did this little labor of love pro bono project in conjunction with our local homeless shelter. We took an old church nursery, turned it into Restoration Roasters, which is now an award-winning, best-in-class gathering place for the community. And it's fully staffed by residents of the local homeless shelter or volunteers. And so the idea that every cup represents a drop of transformation, and that basically anyone thinking they're just consuming a cup of coffee is actually involved with changing a life. And I've seen this where it's tied into global transformation. There's a relationship with the particular venue and the village in you name it, Haiti, Africa, wherever that's harvesting the beans, and they've maintained kind of a sister community kind of relationship. But again, the idea that this could be a place where it's not just a ministry incubator, but a place where like-minded entrepreneurs that are building the kingdom, that have a shared heart for the city, that share God's heart for redemption, renewal in the world, could find, again, fertile soil and a place to kind of collaborate and incubate and, again, change the world by serving you,
Do we like that? Oh, man. I love that. It's like I get excited about building this. Building a place that gets filled up for 4 hours a week and left empty, no thanks. This, I could dig. We've talked about, generating revenue from this source and being able to do things in the community. Scholarships for trade schools and partnerships with Wenatchee Learn and other wonderful things going on in town, just to foster and facilitate the flourishing of people. You're going to spend money on coffee anyways. Might as well do something that changes the world with it while you're at it. Amen? So that's kind of the heart behind that. We value, we're going to bring us to a close here, get a quick break here. We value summer nights. I just made this up. We value summer nights, date nights, family nights, girls' nights, or any other excuse for live music. So we're building the Orchard Terrace Amphitheater. Now, what's cool about this is, you remember where our stage was for Easter? That was right where that chapel was going to sit, and so it just backs right up to this amphitheater that we think we can fit probably 1,000, 2,000 people there. Already naturally cut by Dorothy Ogle's dad. Planted some of the first cherry trees in the valley. He watered those cherry trees with buckets that he was carrying from the Wenatchee River over the hill. Back when men were men and boys were men, apparently. And so it's the Orchard Terrace Amphitheater. And we just envision this being just a really cool spot to foster summer theater, summer concerts. You can go to the Gorge, or you could go to Grace City's Orchard amphitheater, Orchard Terrace Amphitheater. And so we're pretty stoked about the possibilities for that. That's a bit of a view. So as a chapel works, the garage door rolls up in the back, and then the AVL or the sound light production capacities of the chapel are double use for the amphitheater. So you just roll the door up, access right there to the stage. We see weddings happening here, concerts happening here, baptisms happening here, prayer and worship nights happening here. Crazy thing, I was talking to the homeowner top of the hill, and he said, hey, you know what I thought? Because we were afraid, like, neighbors might not like this and loud music, and we'll have to, figure that out. And he goes, hey, you know what'd be cool here? Is an amphitheater. And I'm like, yeah, there's a spirit-filled neighbor right there. So, again, it's part of the master plan, but you can just see it's like a place for people to come. As you approach, you kind of make your way from the parking lot through the trees. You come through the trees and out into this just very, very beautiful, naturally landscaped amphitheater that we get pretty excited about.
Outdoor movies.
Outdoor movies! Yeah, I like that. Toy Story.
Frozen.
Your favorite. Yeah. Mel asked us to play that theme song, actually. I'm kidding, he didn't. There's a bit of a view there. So this is just a recap for us. For Grace City, it will be a family gathering, offices, Gracetown, training classes, pastor school. We haven't got to that vision yet. We do pastor school. We want that to grow. It's going to be a place for internships, Bible schools, conferences, and a broadcast center. Now, we're running out of time, so I'm going to condense this and move on quickly and give you your break before we land the plane. But here's our vision. We want to start a one-year Bible school and a 2-year school of ministry. The 1 year, wait till you hear it. The 1 year Bible school would be designed, it would be one part boot camp, one part Bible school, and one part mission trip. And it would be designed specifically for students between high school and college, i.e. the running start students. They're graduate early, got nowhere to go, trying to figure out what to do. They peel off a year, and we give them just a full biblical worldview immersion. And we have Pastor Kent lead it, Pastor Adam, Pastor Carey lead it. And it's just this extraordinary 8-month experience that solidifies a rock-solid Christian worldview in their bones while they're simultaneously serving the lost here in Wenatchee and around the world. We would design multicultural experiences into that 8-month experience. We have Museum of the Bible that Mel helped work on around the world. And that would be a 1-year Bible school. And then the 2-year school of ministry, we would partner with ARC churches and other friends that we're building where people could come from all over the world to be trained in the culture and atmosphere and ethos of Grace City Church to serve in ministry teams, production, media, worship, graphic design, admin, leadership, preaching, theology, youth, kids, there's the whole gamut. And then we launched those teams to plant churches not only in our area, but to connect with other ARC churches, to plant churches around the world. So to activate in that space all week long are college students that are learning, growing, being challenged and pushed by the extraordinary leaders here in our community to be future church men and church women leading the community of God to bless the community they find themselves in. And that would be something that could also generate some revenue for the church family. And then get this, we'd have 30, 45, 50 students at Grace City, and part of their internship is they intern under the leaders at Grace City. So they're paying us to be here. We're getting free labor. Put your hands together, people. We're going to work them like dogs because I'm tired. So we got to build some housing for them, but I'll let Vince figure that out. But we're pretty excited about that. Of course, conferences, we have a lot of dreams for hosting church conferences at Broadcast Center. Well, we have 4 or 5 cities identified. We want to plant Grace City Church campuses there with live stream technology. We're already in conversation with some families about that. More on that later this year, but that would all happen as a center of activity from this Broadcast Center. For our community, it'd be a place for business, children, education, culture, entertainment, food, learning, training, health, all taking place on site. 4 event and concert venues, a wedding venue, a next-gen business incubator, academic-based preschool, a daycare and day drop, Mela Coffee Roasting Company. Side note, the man who owns Mela Coffee, he's not here, is he, Kyle? He's a godly man who loves Jesus, who's leveraging his entrepreneurial business for the sake of the kingdom of God. There's a like-minded heart and mind in that man, and so we're excited about where that could go. Potential restaurant, eatery, food truck location, CrossFit gym and loop trail, co-working executive office space, community wellness center. Had to skip that. I'll tell you about it later. It's amazing. Convention space, story tower, mentoring connections, housing, commercial space. Here is the dream. Yeah, I know I'm kind of wordy. We're going to put this somewhere on the wall in our space, and I'm going to close this with this. We dream of a place where mentorship is valued, dreams are born, and risks are taken, where heritage and history are honored, the present enjoyed, and the future built, where ideas find allies and failure is success, where ordinary people converge to do extraordinary things together, where problems are wrestled with, solutions are brainstormed, and businesses are started over a good local brew, where collaboration, innovation, creativity, and generosity are not just words on a wall, but values embodied, where wisdom is gained, children are valued, skills are honed, culture is shaped, where work is humanized, profession is exchanged for calling, and people wake up with a drive to make a difference, where being a lifelong learner is the norm, where music and art are enjoyed, where people come to be renewed in mind, body, soul, and then in turn leave energized to work for the renewal of the community they call home, where people flock from around the world to be inspired for the possible when people press into the power of together, where compelling vision draws great things out of ordinary people who go on to do big things that really matter, where awesome is aimed at and excellence is achieved, where we dream globally and act locally for change, justice, joy, and human flourishing, where relationships thrive, potential is realized, and cool stuff just gets done. In short, where community happens and we're together, we do Wenatchee. That is a fully orbed vision statement for a church. Not just preach the gospel and go home and feel good about ourselves, but embody the gospel in how we do all of life for all of Christ, working hard with all of our might to bring about the flourishing of humanity in the community he's called us to love. At the end of the day, that more people, through how we love and how we lead and how we learn and how we build and how we grow and how we pool our resources and how we sacrificially give and how we joyfully participate in loving and helping other people, that comes together in a crescendo of more people meeting Jesus, loving Jesus, and following Jesus in our town because of what you do and how you live. Amen? That's the dream that we want to build.